everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Welcome to Patriot Strong. If you have already subscribed, thank you so much. If this is your first time here, please follow, subscribe. I am on Brighteon, BitChute, Rumble, Frank Speech, 107 Daily, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you can stream your favorite podcast. Please make sure that you follow and click on the bell so you get notifications for any time that we release a new episode. I am thrilled, literally thrilled tonight, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know because you followed my story, you follow the Telegram, you follow my Facebook page. My husband, John, was in the hospital for 47 days this year from February 7th until March 24th for heart-related issues. He had to have major heart surgery and he's still in recovery right now. We go to cardiac rehab 3 times a week. I am welcoming to Patriot Strong John Hewlett, the founder of Cardio Miracle. And John, thank you for all that you've done. I know we spoke a lot before camera, but thank you for all the research that you've done and all of the families and people that you've personally helped because of your product.
Thank you, Courtney. It's a pleasure to be with a Patriot, an open-minded person interested in taking charge of your health and the health of your loved ones. The women are the caregivers. They're the ones, the mama bears. You don't want to poke the mama bear. You want to take care of them. And I know that you probably have a lot of followers and subscribers that are on both on the male and female side, but there's we're so grateful for people who are taking charge of their own health, liberty, and choices, and then integrating the best of what medicine currently offers, but at the same time trying to deal with the systemic issues that go on instead of just masking them with drugs, trying to get to the systemic reasons that people can have better health and avoid being in the hospital for months on end, having to take dozens of prescriptions and having all kinds of procedures. Those are very stressful. They're financially devastating, difficult for a family, and we're trying to help prevent all of that, or at least alleviate it after it's happened so it doesn't get worse and that people have hope in finding alternatives to cardiovascular and other chronic illness symptoms that are plaguing their life and their family's lifestyle.
And I'm so thankful that you are here today. You guys, we know over the past 2 years, we have been thrown a veil over what they thought that everybody would perceive as reality for, a health scare, fear porn. They wanted to convince us all to go get the vaccine. A lot of my audience, I know you guys were smarter than that. You didn't fall for the agenda. You didn't fall for the incentives. You guys know I was fired from my job for not taking the vaccine, for refusing to test weekly, for refusing the protocol. And I feel in my heart that is a godsend. It's God telling you guys, hey, I have something better for you. Don't fall for this. It's all a hoax. And that's where we are now. A lot of people are looking for an alternative path, for the naturopathic path that is not all MD, that will prescribe you medicine after medicine after medicine. One symptom leads to another adverse reaction, what have it be. There's always another way to look at things, another way to alleviate things. Because in my opinion, what you have to know, if the medical doctors really cared for you, then they would make no money. A sick patient makes money, a healthy patient does not. So this is whenever we turn to alternative medication. And I'm so thankful for people like John Hewlett, who has introduced these things into, our public knowledge, who's doing these interviews left and right to get his word out, because his product helps people and it doesn't make a profit off of keeping you sick. So again, John, thank you so much for what you are doing.
Well, thanks, Courtney, and we appreciate Patriots, and we do encourage. What we're encouraging is the basic Bill of Rights that we have as human beings that has been taken away from us by having us subject to these regulators, unelected people of the deep state, big corporate interests that are only concerned with shareholder dividends and profitability. And also these presidents, owners of these companies, these management team are they're lining their pockets at the expense of the health of humanity. And our effort is, my particular, crisis brings us all into this space. And as you said, your husband's health issues has really made it a focal point for you. Well, I was just kind of a normal guy, had some belief in alternative things, and then had an emergency appendectomy. And during that 72 hours, the system almost extinguished my life for about 4 different times. And after getting out of there with my hide, literally, I was internally bleeding. They tried to give me the wrong medication that would have killed me. I was suffocating in ICU because they hadn't given me a medication I needed as a muscle relaxant. I mean, I just had this unbelievable circus of 72 hours. And then I refused certain treatments and then did some natural alternatives. The bleeding stopped from my clipped vein from my surgery. And I was able to, limp home from the hospital. And that set my wheels in motion. I was a very successful financial insurance advisor, raised billions of dollars for charity, did estate planning, involved in politics, but I was not that healthy myself. I had a family history. Everyone in my family had died before my age now of heart disease. Father at 62, uncle at 57, cousin at 49, grandfathers at 67. And now I'm 71. I'm in better shape than I've been in years. Haven't been on a prescription medication since I found the science of nitric oxide in 2007, and haven't been on a prescription since. My cardiovascular numbers would make most triathletes or 25-year-olds jealous, and I have the energy and stamina. It's not perfect. I've carried around extra weight for years. I have a stressful life. I've had some skin cancers. I smack my head a lot, and so I've had some issues trying to deal with some of that. And plus, I frankly am so committed to my cause and what I'm doing that I should be out on the golf course right now and exercising, but instead I want to help share the word to people like yourself and those listening. There is hope. We call it hope in a glass. It's called Cardio Miracle. And basically it's 53 ingredients of the finest nitric oxide producing. Nitric oxide has been proven to virtually help every aspect of cellular health. And so we're very excited with what we've accomplished in the last 9 years. And when you have the best and the brightest of the alternative fight and patriot movement, all taking Cardio Miracle now personally, which, 5 years ago, I could hardly get most of them to even, take a phone call from me, to now have all of them endorsing it to their followers, to their family, for their mothers, for their grandparents, and taking it personally has been really very gratifying after scrambling to build a business out of nothing 9 years ago.
And that's amazing. And I know you have so much more to your story. So I know that you just gave a quick, insert for what you are doing right now. But if you could, can you kind of introduce yourself, who you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, because I know that you go far back in this industry, and how you got to Cardio Miracle right now, and what, your secret ingredient is, and how it helps re-aliven the cells that, everybody needs.
Happy to. Well, I early at a young age, I was going to go into law, but then I decided to go in the financial world. So I was a very successful financial planner, insurance planner, charitable fundraiser, et cetera. Sold over $1 billion worth of insurance in the 80s and 90s. Donated, helped create billions for charity, Ronald McDonald House, other university, children's hospitals, churches, colleges, arts, and whatever. So I was very community oriented, and literally, but I was dying. At 55, I had chest pains, shortness of breath, radiating arm. If I overexerted, I felt like I had a racing heartbeat. And then I ended up with this emergency appendectomy. And that led me into the hospital, and I had the surgery. They didn't know that they clipped a vein. They sent me home. Middle of the night, I woke up. I was bleeding to death. Ended up going back to the hospital. Then in the ICU, the nurse didn't give me the right medication, so I almost suffocated in ICU. The change of nurses put me on the right one. Then they took me down to a regular room. The cardiologist, the head cardiologist, the whole hospital came, and I was still internally bleeding at that point. They weren't sure if they were going to have to open me up to try to, I mean, just think how the infection and things would have probably gone with that deal.
Wow.
So because I'm carrying a few extra pounds, and so they had arthroscopically, taken out this appendix, but they had nicked a vein in the process. So I was bleeding internally. I'd lost 5 units of blood. I was not in good shape. And then this cardiologist insisted that I have a lithium CAT scan, which is where they do the red contrast dye. I'm sure that your husband's had that.
Yes.
But as they were wheeling me out while I'm still internally bleeding, I questioned them, and I said, what are some of the complications of this? And they said, well, some of the time kidney failure. And I thought, oh, great. I just buried a friend who had been on dialysis for years with his liver cancer. So I wasn't very excited about kidney failure. So I decided not to have the procedure while they were poking the needle in my arm. I said, no, I've decided not to do this. And they go, what do you mean? You got to do this. The cardiologist says you have to do it. I said,
Nope.
no, I don't. I'm not going to do it. And so I said, either you wheel me back to my room or I'm crawling back there, but I'm not having this test. Well, I don't want to make you feel bad, but contrast dye has now shown through extensive testing that it kind of burns the inside of your lining of your arteries.
Yes.
And so here and maybe it's an overkill being inflammatory. They thin the blood so the blood can get through the artery better, but then it damages the lining of the artery. So the artery then tries to protect itself by building up plaque against this burning. And so all of a sudden you've got thin blood, and now you're plaquing up again, trying to prevent it. Well, red dye on the contrast dye of the lithium CAT scan that people get all the time when they do these procedures actually damages the endothelial lining. And we've now learned from the research that the lining of the artery, called the endothelium, is almost the most important traffic cop of the entire body. Regulates organs, regulates nutrition to the cell, regulates the vitamin D absorption for your immune system. I mean, it is really important. And essentially what we're doing in most cases with many medications and treatments is we're essentially giving ourselves Drano in our veins in order to try to find a clog somewhere in 100,000 miles of arteries, find a clot or a problem or a blockage. Well, that's like burning down the forest to find one tree. So the reality is, yes, there's a place for it, but it's very expensive. It's very caustic in inflammation, and it should be avoided if you possibly can. So they wanted to do that with me. I refused. I came back to my room after having an argument with a nurse, an orderly, and a cardiologist, and they were ready to hook me up for an IV.
Yep.
And I said, hey, I'm not taking any more of this stuff. I'm kind of fed up with what's going on here. I said, what's in that IV? And they said, well, it's something the cardiologist recommended. And I said, what is it? And they said, Luxem. I said, what in the world is Luxem? And they said, it's a blood thinner. And I go, I'm internally bleeding. Why would I be getting a blood thinner? And they looked kind of in horror and said, well, the cardiologist said. I said, please get out of this room and take it with you. Well, I found out. So that night I did some energy work with an energy worker, used some frankincense, took some cayenne pepper capsules, found out where we believe the little clip vein was. During the night, after prayer and contemplation and taking these natural things, the bleeding stopped. Call it a miracle, call it beginner's luck or whatever. I call it that was the part of the ordination of me getting involved in all this. So bleeding stopped the next day. I said to my surgeon who had clipped the vein, came in to apologize for me going through hell for 48 hours. And I said, well, your cardiologist tried to give me Luxem. And he turned as white as a sheet. And he said, that would have killed you. And I said, so please check me out of
Right.
here. I've had enough. So he checked me out of the hospital. And then I got home bruised and battered from top to bottom, had a gout attack. I had everything in the world going wrong, but I was out of the hospital alive. And that's when I started researching alternatives. And that's when I was guided to find nitric oxide, which 10 years before that, this was 2007, had been awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine for reversing cardiovascular problems. And that was when the Nobel Prize meant something. They said that nitric oxide, this molecule produced as a gas in your body, reversed atherosclerosis and heart disease. And I said, why don't we know this? And they said, because
Right.
cardiovascular surgeries, diagnosis, and treatment represents 80% of the hospital revenue in the United States.
And before that's what I was thinking. If you are a healthy patient, your doctor is not making any money. And I'm sorry, not sorry. You can love your doctor all that you want, but if you're healthy, what need do they have for you? They thrive, in my opinion. They thrive. The big pharma, pharmaceutical companies, they thrive off of unhealthy patients, and they give you medications that will lead to all things that you might have to take more medications from. And it's just a very slippery slope. And whenever you know that you can cure pretty much any disease or
Letting your body, giving your body the tools. The
ailment,
body
correct,
does the healing.
from
Correct.
your vitamin and mineral deficiencies, it's a game changer. So whenever I was connected with John to introduce this Cardio Miracle, I was hands down 100% in, because again, this connects with me deeply, and I know with a lot of my audience, it connects with you too.
Yes. Well, nitric oxide is
Nitric
the
oxide.
molecule that is created by taking ingredients, and we do it in a powder form because the powder form, when put in liquid, then goes in your body. It then gets absorbable in the colon and in the bloodstream. Then those ingredients through the bloodstream influence the wall of the artery to start creating nitric oxide, like the fountain of youth. Like you go back 30 years, you roll back the clock. So it stimulates the arterial wall that produces nitric oxide, which has been called everything from the spark of life to the miracle molecule to the most important gas. It's considered the third essential gas: oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is like the referee that keeps oxygen and carbon dioxide in their respective corners doing what they're supposed to do. Nitric oxide is the traffic controller, the traffic cop standing at an intersection where the lights don't work. That's what nitric oxide does in your body, but we stop producing it at higher levels as we get older, as we deal with depression, fear, toxic environmental issues. All of these things diminish your nitric oxide. Excess caffeine diminishes nitric oxide. There's lots of things that diminish it. So we've learned from the science that we need to supplement once you're through your 20s. You need to start supplementing things to stimulate your nitric oxide. It helps with erectile dysfunction. It helps with preventing macular degeneration. It helps with neuropathy. It helps with diabetic symptoms. It helps. All nitric oxide has clinical science by the thousands on all of those things. Then the secret comes: how do you get safe nitric oxide from a supplement? And that's where people like Dr. Christiane Northrup, one of my favorite ladies on earth, and Dr. Judy Mikovits, another of my favorite ladies on earth, both said when they heard about Cardio Miracle and my story and looked at the ingredients and then read the science, these two brilliant women, one a doctor, one a PhD scientist, said, I've been looking for a nitric oxide solution for a decade or more, and Cardio Miracle fills the bill. And that's why both of them endorse it absolutely almost every time they speak anywhere, talking about how essential, safe, nitric oxide and vitamin D bioavailability, which we have also as a part of our 53 ingredients, makes it so valuable for people with cardiovascular issues, autoimmune issues, metabolic syndrome issues. All chronic illness is essentially benefited by bioavailable vitamin D3 and 36-hour, 24-hour extended nitric oxide, which we're the only nitric oxide product in the world that has science proving that we extend nitric oxide over a couple of hours.
Look it up for yourself. You guys can do the research. He just told you where to look it up, how to look it up. I do have questions, just because my husband is on so many medications. Your product counteract, or would it affect any medications that any normal patient with a heart issue might face? The blood thinners, the blood pressure, whatever other medication. Does the cardiac or cardiomiracle affect that in any way?
The only one that is controversial, I don't necessarily buy the argument, but the pharmaceutical world would say don't eat lettuce, don't eat green vegetables, don't do anything that has vitamin K1 in it, because we're giving you a blood thinner. Sort of like, don't do anything healthy while you're in chemotherapy because we're trying to kill you, and then we're going to bring you back to life later. Well, the same thing almost goes for the blood thinner, saying, oh, well, we don't know how to fix the systemic problem, which is inflammation of the artery, which caused the clogging in the first place, or caused the breakdown of the ejection fraction in the pump of the coronary arteries. We don't have a solution for that. But so what we want to do is let's water down the gas in your car, and let's make it as thin as possible so it doesn't get in the way of one of these clogs or one of these clots or one of these blockages. My personal belief is, and I'm not a doctor, my personal belief is that inflammation caused by many of these medications is far harmful than the beneficial effects. Now, there are people that may have a clot that could be thrown. There are people who may have thick blood. Maybe they have a genetic propensity with their endothelial lining that creates more plaque for some reason. Well, nitric oxide therapy has been proven scientifically and clinically to eliminate arterial plaque, to minimize inflammation. When you minimize inflammation, you're minimizing atherosclerosis. You're minimizing the reason why you need to have thinner blood versus good viscosity blood. I compare it kind of like to, let's take traditional motor oil, let's run it down as thin as possible, and then let's add some additive to make it even thinner, versus a synthetic oil that basically flows freely and lasts about 5 times longer. Well, I believe that the goal is to get the lining of the artery slippery, healthy, and producing nitric oxide so that it prevents having plaque, prevents the blood from coagulating and throwing a clot, and all of those things benefit that way, as opposed to the solution, which is let's water down the gas and hope the car can keep running.
And that makes so much sense to me, and maybe to even of you guys listening out there. With John's case, we have to get his. It's called an INR. I'm not sure what that stands for. I forget it right now. But it basically determines how thick or thin his blood is. But it makes so much more sense for what you were just saying with how thick the lining of his arteries are.
How healthy, yeah, how
Right.
healthy, and any fighting of the inflammation, as opposed to, if you look at the side effects of all the known published blood thinners, the side effects are horrific. And why is that? Because they're chronically inflammatory. And so they're thinning the blood, but they're spreading inflammation throughout the entire system of the body, including all the organs. Let me tell you 2 personal experiences. My mother was 93 years old before she died. At 90, she had knee replacement. I had her on Cardio Miracle. She breezed through her rehab with double knee replacement at 90 years old. Unbelievable. Now, it didn't mean that it still didn't hurt and wasn't hard, but Cardio Miracle has a dramatic impact on the ease of the surgery, the recovery of the wound, the recovery for the physical therapy, and it helps minimize the sepsis, infection, all of the other things that happen when you start letting people end up needing a pacemaker because for whatever reason. And I said, okay, I can go along with the pacemaker as opposed to an ablation, going in and burning and doing their little architectural stuff. So I said, okay, I can go along with that. Well, guess what? They give her the pacemaker and they insisted that she take a blood thinner. And I said, I cannot support that. And they said, well, there's a 5% chance that she's going to have a stroke. And I said, I like those odds. I said, there's probably a 5% chance that I'm going to be run over by a car today as well. So, but her husband, stepfather, insisted that she do what the white coats told her. And for the next 3 years, she had hematomas, bruises, bleeding. Every time she went anywhere, she was bleeding and bruising, and she had 100% chance of complications from the thinner as opposed to the 5% alleged chance against the stroke, which I believe was zero because she was elevating her nitric oxide. Now, I have a next door neighbor. I just moved into a new home six months ago. This poor guy's 90 years old. He's a world-class athlete through the years. He's been on a blood thinner for 12 years. Yesterday, when we saw him, his wife had passed away. I believe she was an injection, crazy cancer thing that hit, and she was dead before we had a chance. We just barely met her, and she ended up dying. But we went over to visit him and talk to him. His legs looked like a mortar field. I have never seen anything more horrific. And it has written all over them blood thinners. And I'm like, my gosh, this just doesn't make sense. Now, if somebody's 95% plaqued up and going to have a stroke and a heart attack in the next 3 days, unless they thin the blood or unless they put in a stent or whatever, then I think there's a place for it. But this business about lifetime sentence on blood thinners and all that kind of stuff, I just wouldn't do it myself. And I think that there are better options, and I would be looking for an osteopath or an integrative surgeon or somebody who deals with integrative medicine, who believes that the side effects from some of these toxic substances is far worse than taking your chances if you get a good nitric oxide, vitamin D, and a healthier lifestyle. Eliminate some of the things that are unhealthy and inflammatory. Go more alkaline. Do more intermittent fasting. All of those things have now been proven to be very therapeutic in helping the body to heal itself.
I've met a lot of naturopathic doctors who are taking, not the mainstream path, but, this is how you can counteract what you are being diagnosed with. This is how you can heal yourself, because there are plants and there are minerals, in my opinion, that can cure every disease that you are diagnosed with. And I had to stay up with my charts every single time anybody said or did anything. Any doctor ordered a test, I had to look it up and then call my medical advocate, who
Good for you.
was through, Grace Care, which is Priscilla Romans and Dr. Brian Artis. They are amazing people, and they helped me, and I'm 100% convinced that they are why my husband is still here today, because of all of these, advocacy and not mainstream media doctors who actually care about you and not about the money. So, I said everything to get emotional, but I am.
Bless your heart, Courtney. You deserve it. Be thankful that it was the last 6 months instead of a year ago, because they would have taken him from you, injected him, put him on the medication that has been killing people, and he'd be on a ventilator, and you'd be visiting the cemetery on Memorial Day instead of at least being able to weather your way through this. And that's why what I would suggest, in my opinion, is consult with your patient advocacy people and say, can you find me an integrative cardiologist that will give us some advice on how we can deal with the new implant of the valve? Because again, Cardio Miracle doesn't fix the mechanical issues of somebody having a birth defect or a hole in their heart or whatever. Now we know that the new cells are going to grow healthy and replicate healthy, and the cells all reproduce themselves every 3 to 6 months. So that's a good sign, and we've seen some very extraordinary, interesting things happen. But when you have a mechanical problem or an electrical problem, like sometimes an ablation is very helpful, but often it's the testing is very toxic with this contrast dye, and their
Yes.
intentions are good because they're trying to find where the blockage is. But do a thermography or do something else that isn't as invasive and as corrosive and as damaging as the dye seems to be, or in my opinion is. Though I'm not an expert in contrast dye, but I met in Ohio with one of the top scientists in the world near your home. And he was actually, after he tested Cardio Miracle and determined that he had never seen a supplement, he'd never seen arginine in any form extend nitric oxide stimulation for 24 hours. And he measured it in his lab. And he's the only one in the world who has the equipment to measure that. And he wrote a paper on it. It was published. And it said the free radical damage decreased by 50%, which shocked him, which was a breakthrough. On top of that, when I went back there after that published study, they were actually testing the contrast dye for a couple of leading pharmaceuticals. And I said to the PhD in the lab, who was a very nice fellow, very smart, I said, so what do you think? What do you think of the contrast dye? And he said, oh, not a good thing. And I thought,
Right.
oh my gosh, here it is, thousands of dollars to get a test, to find out that you've got a problem, to do a solution that maybe could be avoided in the first place, that then leads to lifetime dependence or other things. And I was like, the system's really upside down and broken. And what we need to do is focus on our immune system, focus on helping our body repair itself where possible. But if we need a knee replacement, get a knee replacement. Take Cardio Miracle, build up your nitric oxide, should assist in your healing and your recovery. Most people say they recover in half the time. All of those things are great because you've got to fight the inflammation with anti-inflammatories. But when people are on multiple medications, just do your own, Sherlock Holmes deductions, and you'll realize that these synthetic drugs are inflammation time bombs
Right.
for the body. And inflammation is the cause of all chronic illness, in my opinion.
And we've talked all this time about cardiac or Cardio Miracle. Can you explain what that is specifically?
Sure. Cardio Miracle is a nitric oxide boosting supplement that has 53 ingredients. Here's a little package, little Cardio Miracle package. And you just pour it into a glass of water. You can make it into a smoothie. You can do whatever. And we have therapeutic vitamin D3. We have anti-inflammatories like astaxanthin and turmeric. We have a bouquet, dozens of antioxidants like grapeseed extract, quercetin, vitamin C from acerola cherry. We have organic fruits and vegetables like organic beets, organic carrots, organic coconut water. All of those things in one packet of Cardio Miracle. I mean, it should cost $10 a serving. People go, well, it's kind of expensive. And I said, $1.35 on our subscription plan for something that gives you 53 ingredients, replaces 80% of your supplements, and in many cases will give you your life back, like me. I haven't been on a medication in 17 years. And so it's given me my life back. So I'm very grateful for that. And in most people, they can replace about 80% of their supplements. We're direct to the public. We're not a multi-level, but our ingredients, by the grace of God and me talking to the smartest people, I believe, in the United States over the last 15 years, has led me to be able to connect the dots. I knew nothing about this 17 years ago, but I'm now considered a practical expert, one of the best in the world on why it all works. I have these PhDs all the time doing testing for me, and they go, how did you come up with this? And I said, just leave it to the good Lord, because I was just out there trying to solve my own problem. And when it solved mine, I wanted to solve the problems of the people I love. And then that led me to work for a company where I had my initial experience. And after 4 years of mud wrestling them to try to put better ingredients in and improve with the ongoing science, I walked away from $1 million a year plus as a top distributor, and decided, I guess I've got to do this myself. And so, because I wouldn't compromise on ingredients, it wasn't about the money. Obviously, we need to be successful, but we have not had a price increase in 4 years. And what else in the world isn't smaller, isn't watered down, or isn't more expensive? Well, Cardio Miracle hasn't, and we've improved it. We've improved it 7 times, and we will continue to improve it as long as I'm above ground and able to do it. And we're delighted the results are unbelievable. And we have money back guarantee. People get 60 or 90 servings in a pouch. And we've gone to pouches to help save some money for the consumer on canisters. So we just introduced our pouches, which are a little more efficient. So we didn't have to have a pricing. I mean, shipping has gone up, ingredients have gone up, labor's gone up, everything under the sun's gone up. Cardio Miracles held the line because we're selling enough that we're able to help our affiliate partners be successful. Instead of advertising like other companies on Fox News, we can go right out to the public, sell it on Amazon, sell it through our affiliate partners, help them finance their missions, and help save the lives and improve the lives of their followers and subscribers and viewers that they love dearly.
Absolutely. And you probably spend anywhere from $13 to $17 per supplement for those 7, 8, 9, whatever it is.
Sure.
I can already guarantee you, and I've never used Cardio Miracle before. This is the first time talking to John, but I know as soon as I go downstairs and speak to my John, we are going to throw all of those supplements on our fridge away, and we're going to probably be ordering from Cardio Miracle right now, because it just makes more sense. It's more organic, it's more healthy. It's not the synthetic supplements that people think that they need, and they're not really doing anything. So
save those supplements, because you never know when you may need a little extra C, or you need a little extra selenium, or whatever it might be,
right.
Or give them to somebody who can't afford it at all. But I can assure you that at $1.35, $40 a serving, buying on our subscription program is the steal of a lifetime, because it's about 100 times better for you than any coffee, any soft drink, any energy drink, any smoothie, any whatever. And people often say, it's kind of expensive. And I go, compared to what?
Right.
Being in pain? I mean, you think of it, Courtney, what would you have given? What would you have spent or invested or borrowed to have prevented your husband from going through what you and the family have gone through the last 6 months? Anything.
Honestly, anything.
Anything. And so what I'm telling people is, for, a couple of dollars a day, they may be able to prevent a lot of the things that you went through over the last number of years. So there is hope. I want people to know there's hope. Injected, not injected, shedding, whatever. You need to strengthen your immune system. You need to build your nitric oxide supplementation, and you need to take charge of your own health, because if we haven't seen it already, the establishment has lost tremendous credibility over the last few years, because we saw hundreds of thousands, literally millions of people die from treatment, not from whatever was supposedly they were sick with. It was unbelievable, catastrophic, and we all need to get involved supporting political candidates who embrace freedom of personal choice and sovereignty over our health. We need to embrace local leaders that will stop the madness of turning over our rights. I mean, there's legislation pending that they want the World Health Organization to dictate who's in charge instead of our own state,
right.
Our own county, our own doctors. This is madness, and we need to stand up and and do what you're doing, Courtney, and that's speaking out and then finding solutions and then supporting people and companies that are in the fight. We need that, because I can invest more. This last month we spent a couple $100,000 into freedom fighters. We're going to spend millions on freedom fighters and fighting for these political and these health choices. That's what we do with our money, not buy our fourth extra car or something like that.
You guys, it is so important. You guys have listened to this entire podcast. It's almost been close to an hour now. You really need to look into all your healthcare for yourself. Be your own healthcare advocate. If you can't, find somebody who can. Grace Care is a help. They helped me. They're the reason that my husband is still alive. Grace Care, they're with Dr. Brian Artis. Priscilla Romans. Literally, I was on the phone with Priscilla, or my personal one, her name was Gail. Every single day, like, hey, look at this. Why aren't
Wow.
we doing this? Amazing people. I had interviews with Dr. Gleaden, people that actually care for your health. They're not making $100,000 if you get injected and if you die and if they put you on the protocol.
Yeah.
They actually care that you're alive and that you're healthy. And this is what you guys need to do. I don't bring you interviews for nothing. I accept interviews that I think is going to be beneficial for you. If I don't think an interview is going to be good, then I don't accept it. I'm not doing this. I'm not wasting your time. I'm not wasting my time. If I do an interview, it's because I know it's going to be beneficial for you guys. So thank you guys for listening to this. Again, John, thank you for everything that you're doing. Where can people find you?
They can find us on Amazon, Cardio Miracle, and they can also find us on cardiomiracle.com. And we'll hope to put Courtney and Patriot Strong into an affiliate position so that we can help benefit you as you see these unbelievable, wonderful miracle situations that'll come from your many followers that give this a try. Full 100% money back guarantee, endorsed by the best of the best, published science, second to none. But also, I would suggest, Courtney, it came to me that, maybe you ought to coordinate with Dr. Artis about your concern with the medications and how you could phase out and what tests you should do in order to consider doing that. Or there's some other doctors, Dr. Hellman, the frontline doctors, Paul Merrick, all of those. There's many of them are big Cardio Miracle advocates. Peter McCullough has obviously heart experience. I haven't ever really talked to Peter McCullough. I've talked to everyone around him, but I just think that you could find an advocate that could help you safely deal with the choices but by all means, I say, take it to God, follow your heart, and do your own research. If you do that, and then listen to smarter people that are really open-minded to solutions, not just to what they're being told by these people who are financing our entire industry and have a conflict of interest, I think you'll be well served.
Absolutely. You guys, I don't even know how much I can say, to thank you for joining into this episode. John, you've said so much. One more time so I can put it up on the screen right now for those listening. Where can people find you?
Cardiomiracle.com, or if they go to cardiomiracle.com and they want to help your particular mission immediately or whatever to have you get involved, doesn't affect their price. They can call the 800 number that's on our website at cardiomiracle.com and tell them just to reference that Patriot Strong is where they heard about it. And then we'll go back after we set you up. If you decide you want to be part of our affiliation program, then we'll go back and do the accounting to help you out any way we can. We're delighted for your patriotism. God bless you in your home and your family with your husband and that journey. You are, make it a matter of gratitude and continue to find answers, and you will find answers. and you'll find ways that you can help him bounce back from this. And I can't really comment on the ejection fraction or the valve procedure. Probably in his situation, it's probably necessary, but it would be really nice to have somebody who had a natural view of how beneficial other things like nitric oxide, vitamin D3, et cetera, would be helpful. And it also would be helpful in many cases prior to surgery, because it does help with blood viscosity. It does help with blood transfusions. It does help with all those types of things to increase oxygenated nitric oxide rich blood, which we're going to be publishing publishing an article this month on the impact for veterans, dementia, Alzheimer's, PTSD, et cetera. All those things. We're actually publishing one of the most premier journals for doctors and psychologists, psychiatrists on PTSD, because we think the whole world has suffered from PTSD the last 3 years.
Absolutely.
And we believe that nitric oxide and Cardio Miracle can be very helpful with the symptoms and problems associated with that.
You guys, this is one of the best, honestly, one of the best and most heartfelt interviews that I've done in the 2.5 years doing this. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will post all of John's links up on the screen right here if you haven't already seen them throughout the duration of the interview. John, thank you so much for everything that you've done. I'm sure you don't know the stand increment of gratitude that people that you've helped to have used your product.
Thank you.
You know,
what a sweet woman you are. Thank you for your patriotism and your passion to try to help humanity. We need more like you. People need to support you. And God bless you in all you're doing, Courtney. And bless you and your husband in your quest to help preserve his life. My life was preserved at 55 because of nitric oxide. I believe that you will see additional benefits for your family as well.
You guys, like, I'm not, like, this is not for an interview. You guys know, like, my husband is right around that age. I am going to end this interview and we're going to talk off of camera because it is that important. You guys, God bless you. God bless this country, and together we're Patriot Strong. Please follow the podcast anywhere that you have seen BitChute, Brighteon, Rumble, Frank's Speech TV, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, or any of the streaming podcast that you can stream on. You guys, thank you so much. Please like, share, comment on this podcast, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for tuning in.